The full moon in Libra is here. The main function of this full moon is actually to act like a mirror. This is a moment where we're asked to reflect, not to react to the world that's around us. This isn't about escapism as much as it's about restoration. How do you restore your faith and trust in relationships? The reason why things are so difficult to navigate during a full moon in Libra is because you have to look at not just the relationship you have with others, but most importantly, the relationship that you have with yourself. The full moon is directly against the sun in Aries, which is holding hands with the wounded healer Chiron. There's a lot that's stirring under the surface since Chiron, being the wounded healer, is showing you the inadequacies that you feel within yourself. And how do you project that out into the world by accident? It's an unconscious thing that happens, but how can we become more conscious of that factor? And this is why this full moon goes beyond the surface. Not only is it the first full moon in Libra we have that's outside of an eclipse, but we're tackling the themes of love, aesthetics, and personal peace within your world. The question that I have is, where have you maintained balance at the expense of your authenticity? And where have you done performative peace versus actually having a true balance at hand? Chiron is one of the most important, if not the most important asteroid in all of astrology. It connects us between the reality that we live that stops with Saturn and the universe at large beyond, which starts with the planet Uranus. Chiron, being the bridge between these two, is in the sign of Aries, which is all about your individuality. Where have you abandoned yourself in the name of peace? Where have you stayed silent in order to avoid the storms outside, only to brew up a storm within that you can't control? A lot of people hear about Libra and it's, oh, they're charming, they're so beautiful, they're gorgeous. And honestly, they absolutely are. I'm not going to sit here and deny that by any means. But people forget about the warrior aspect of Venus a lot, how she didn't play no BS, and she always made sure that she got the spoils of war at the end of every conflict. Chiron and Aries, however, on the other end, is really making you see how strong you are in references to the relationships you're able to attract. I know that there's this saying to where it's like the 10 people that you talk to the most kind of determine how your overall vibe and aura is. And although I don't find that 100% true, there is something that's behind that. The aspect of this full moon tries to remind us that we're not healing in isolation. As a matter of fact, we heal the most when we're amongst other people. Whether we agree with their means or whether we disagree with their means, we get to find ourselves through the means of speaking to other people. Now, with this full moon trining Jupiter, there is movement that's happening. And it's honestly going to come through connection, honest conversation. You're going to be starting to link to people that actually have a very similar in between to you, has a very similar core that maybe you have. But there's a heat that comes with this too. There's a square over to Mars in Cancer, which is bringing a certain amount of discomfort as you're discovering these new areas of yourself. This can show up as family wounds and probably will. This shows up as the parts of you that stayed passive when you knew you were supposed to resist. But this comfort that you're feeling is sacred. So don't take it for granted in terms of the feelings that you're feeling. The feelings you're feeling is what is most important to this entire process. So how do we go from being so self-protected into action that actually guides us to the strength of who we are? Well, to add to the magic of this full moon, we have Venus retrograde ending on the same day. So Venus is stationed direct as it's in the water sign of Pisces. Venus went from the end of the zodiac to entering into the beginning of the zodiac, which allowed you to have a complete refresh on what you think about art, aesthetics, and how you go about the day-to-day in your life. Do not take the last 40 days of your life for granted. In between the Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde, you have upped the ante in terms of what you're willing to deal with and not deal with. This is a crowning moment where the dream starts to clarify. And when the fog actually lifts, you're going to see, oh, this is actually who I want to be. Oh, this is the type of stuff that I want to do moving forward. When Mercury and Venus first went retrograde, Neptune was still there in Pisces as well. Now that it's moving forward, that haze and daze and phase that you were in, not knowing exactly how you want to implement the power that you have, is completely changing. And back to the main topic, the full moon in Libra isn't just about your relationships with other people. It's about the relationship that you have with yourself. The full moon isn't trying to just hand you clarity on a silver platter. That's what the last North Node, South Node situation was all about. You had the last 2 years to figure out what you want it to be. What this full moon wants you to do is lead you back to your own discernment, to be able to choose again what it is that you truly desire, and then chase it like nothing else ever mattered in your life beforehand. And this is why I'm holding a ceremony. I know that y'all missed the live streams. However, I really want to be able to truly implement the magic and all the backing of the last 7 years I've done this professionally, and the last 14 years that I've picked up this astrology book and really wanted to explain all of this information. So I still have this up. If you're watching this afterward, the recording still may be up as well in order for you to get this. But the full moon in Libra, if I could leave you with one last thing about it, actually, I'm gonna leave you with a question. Let's be more specific. What relationship pattern in your life are you ready to finally put to rest? Not in anger, but in grace and understanding. And if you're really about it, leave it down in the comments so we all can see. And I definitely want to see where y'all coming from. If nothing else, I hope this full moon in Libra provides you the clarity of what you need in your relationships, and also shows you what the partners that you're desiring most need in relationships. And you can find the middle ground that you've been looking for. There's been talks of wars and tariffs and BS and everything else. However, it's about how we treat each other on a day-to-day basis that's going to make a huge difference between if we're moving towards a future that we've always dreamed, or if we end up crawling into the reality that these people that don't care about your energy, your vibe, or anything that you do, don't let them win. And the first thing that I suggest is that self-love, becoming the real part of love that you spread to everything around you, is really what this full moon in Libra is about. So get pretty, feel pretty, bring the grace into the world, and most importantly, learn your astrology if you haven't. Wishing you all the best on this full moon in Libra and beyond. I need to get into the rest of this food. Much love to y'all. Talk to you soon.